I sat in the corner booth of the restaurant, watching my father laugh with his wife and her family, and I felt nothing. Not anymore. The numbness had settled in somewhere between the appetizers and the main course, a protective shell that had taken me 26 years to build. My name is Elena Novak, and tonight was supposed to be my birthday dinner. Instead, it had turned into yet another celebration of my stepsister Vanessa's accomplishments. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning. My mother died when I was 9 years old. I still remember the funeral, the way my father David stood at the graveside with dry eyes while I sobbed into my grandmother's coat. 3 months later, he married Patricia, a woman he'd apparently been seeing for over a year before my mother's death. I was too young then to understand what that meant. I understand now. Patricia came with Vanessa, who was 7 at the time, all blonde curls and practiced smiles. My father doted on her immediately. I told myself it was because she was younger, because she needed extra attention adjusting to a new family. I made excuses for him for years. My grandmother, my mother's mother, passed away when I was 16. She left me her house in her will, a beautiful 3-bedroom craftsman in North Vancouver with a view of the mountains. But there was a catch. The house still had a mortgage on it, about 15 years remaining. My grandmother had refinanced it years earlier to help my father with his failed business venture. She made me promise, in her final days, that I would take care of the house and not let it go. I kept that promise. At 16, I couldn't take legal ownership yet, but my father assured me he'd hold it in trust until I turned 18. When I turned 18, he had reasons why we should wait. When I turned 21, he said it made more sense for tax purposes to keep it in his name. I was stupid enough to believe him. What I didn't know then was that when my grandmother died, my father had the deed transferred to his name, not held in trust, but as outright owner. And I didn't know that he'd stopped making the mortgage payments entirely. I found out when I was 22, fresh out of university with a degree in accounting. I'd been working at a mid-sized firm in downtown Vancouver for 3 months when I decided to check on the house's financial status, thinking maybe I could start contributing to pay it off faster. That's when I discovered the mortgage was 4 months in arrears and the house was heading toward foreclosure. I confronted my father that night. He was in the living room of that very house, the one my grandmother had left for me, watching television with Patricia and Vanessa. "Dad, we need to talk about the mortgage." He didn't even look up from the screen. "What about it?" "It's 4 months behind." The bank sent a notice of default. Patricia's head snapped toward him, but he remained calm. "I've been having some cash flow issues with the business. I'll catch it up." "When?" "They're starting foreclosure proceedings." He finally looked at me, irritation crossing his features. "Elena, I don't need you stressing me out about this." I said, "I'll handle it." But he didn't handle it. 2 weeks later, another notice arrived. This time, I made a decision. I went to the bank myself. The mortgage payment was $1,400 a month. I was making $3,800 after taxes. I sat in my small apartment, did the math, and realized that if I paid the mortgage, I'd have just enough left over for my own rent, utilities, and basic expenses. There'd be nothing for savings, nothing for emergencies, nothing for the life I was supposed to be building. But it was my grandmother's house, my house, even if the deed said otherwise. I made the first payment, then the second, then the third. My father never acknowledged it, never thanked me. He just accepted it as his due. That was 4 years ago. 4 years of paying $1,400 a month. 4 years of watching my savings account hover near zero while Vanessa got a new car for her 21st birthday, went on trips to Mexico and Hawaii, bought designer handbags that cost more than I spent on groceries in a month. But the mortgage wasn't all of it. 6 months after I started paying the mortgage, my father called me. "Elena, sweetheart, I need a favor. I should have known better." "What is it, Dad?" "The property taxes are due. I'm a bit short this quarter. Could you cover them? Just this once." The property taxes were $3,200. I had $3,800 in my account. I paid them. Then it was the house insurance. Just until the business picks up, Elena. $1,600 a year, which I started paying monthly. Then it was groceries. We're all family here, Elena. It doesn't make sense for you to buy separate groceries when you eat here 3 times a week anyway. So I started buying groceries for the household. $400 a month. Sometimes more when Vanessa decided she needed organic everything or Patricia wanted to host a dinner party. Let me do the math for you. 1,400 for the mortgage, 267 for property taxes, monthly, 133 for insurance, monthly, 400 for groceries, sometimes 500, $2,200 a month, minimum, sometimes 2,300, for 4 years. That's over $105,000. $105,000 that I paid to keep a roof over their heads, food in their stomachs, and a home that was supposed to be mine in my grandmother's memory. And my father? He hadn't worked in 3 years, some story about a back injury that prevented him from doing physical labor, but never seemed to prevent him from his golf games twice a week. Patricia had a part-time job at a boutique that paid minimum wage for 20 hours a week. She spent more on her manicures than she contributed to the household. Vanessa was 25 now, working part-time as a social media influencer, which meant she took photos of herself in expensive clothes and occasionally got free products. She lived at home, paid nothing, and spent her days shopping and brunching with friends. I was 26, working 50-hour weeks, living in a 400-square-foot basement suite that cost me $1,100 a month, and paying for a family that treated me like an ATM. But I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was honoring my grandmother's memory. I told myself that family helps family. I told myself a lot of lies. 3 weeks before my 26th birthday, Vanessa got engaged. Her boyfriend Carter was a trust fund kid who worked in his father's real estate development company. Nice enough guy, I suppose, though I'd only met him a handful of times at family dinners. The engagement was announced at Sunday dinner, the one meal a week I usually tried to attend. Patricia cried happy tears. My father beamed like Vanessa had just won a Nobel Prize. I smiled and said congratulations, and felt that familiar emptiness in my chest. We're thinking a June wedding, Vanessa gushed, showing off a ring that probably cost more than I made in 6 months. Something elegant, but not too formal. Maybe 150 guests. Patricia immediately started planning mode. Oh, we'll need to book a venue soon. And a photographer. And you'll need to start looking at dresses. I watched them plan, knowing what was coming but not wanting to believe it. It came 2 weeks later. My father called me on a Thursday afternoon. Elena, can you come by the house after work? I need to discuss something with you. I knew. Somehow, I knew. I arrived at 6:30, still in my work clothes. They were all there, sitting in the living room like it was an intervention. My father, Patricia, and Vanessa, all with expectant faces. Elena, sit down, my father said, gesturing to the armchair across from the sofa where they sat in a united front. I sat. As you know, Vanessa's getting married in June. It's a very exciting time for our family. Our family. Not the family. Our family. Like I was included in this unit. Patricia and I have been discussing the wedding, and we want to make sure Vanessa has the day she's always dreamed of. I said nothing. The thing is, weddings are expensive. We've been getting quotes, and for the kind of wedding Vanessa deserves, we're looking at around $45,000. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Carter's family is contributing $20,000. They're being very generous. That's nice, I managed. My father leaned forward, his expression serious. Patricia and I can't contribute much, given our financial situation. But you're doing well, Elena. You have a good job. You're stable. We were hoping you could help out. Help out, I repeated. We need $25,000, Vanessa said, like she was asking me to pass the salt. I know it's a lot, but you're my sister. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. $25,000? $25,000 from someone who'd already given them over $100,000. $25,000 from someone living in a basement suite. $25,000 for a wedding for a girl who'd never once thanked me for keeping a roof over her head. I don't have $25,000. I said quietly. You could take out a loan, Patricia suggested. Or we could work out a payment plan. You could give us $5,000 now, and the rest over the next few months. I don't have $5,000 either. My father's expression hardened. Elena, don't be difficult. I know you have savings. I almost laughed. Savings. I had $4,200 in my savings account, scraped together over the past 4 years by skipping meals and never buying anything for myself. Dad, I pay your mortgage every month. I pay your property taxes. I pay your insurance. I buy your groceries. Where exactly do you think I'm getting savings from? That's different, he said dismissively. That's family obligation. This is about being there for your sister on her special day. Family obligation. The words hung in the air like a curse. I can't afford it, I said firmly. I'm sorry, but I can't give you $25,000 for a wedding. Vanessa's face crumpled. You're seriously going to ruin my wedding because you're selfish? I'm not trying to ruin anything. I just don't have the money. You're lying, Patricia said coldly. You're just jealous because no one wants to marry you. The words should have hurt, but I felt nothing. Just that same cold numbness. I can't help you, I said, standing up. I need to go. Sit down, my father commanded. We're not done discussing this. Yes, we are. I walked toward the door, but his voice stopped me. If you walk out that door, Elena, don't bother coming back. Family supports family. If you can't do this one thing for your sister, then you're not part of this family. I turned to look at him, really look at him. At this man who'd married his mistress 3 months after my mother died, who'd stolen my inheritance and bled me dry for years, who'd never once asked how I was doing, what I needed, if I was happy. Okay, I said simply. Okay, what? Okay, I'm not part of this family then. I left. I didn't go back to my apartment. I couldn't bear to be alone with my thoughts. Instead, I drove to the seawall and walked for hours, watching the sunset over English Bay, trying to process what had just happened. The thing about reaching your breaking point is that it doesn't always feel like breaking. Sometimes it feels like waking up, like seeing clearly for the first time in years. I'd spent 4 years paying for their lives, while mine stagnated. 4 years of telling myself it was temporary, that they'd appreciate it eventually, that family was supposed to help each other. But it had never been about family. It had been about convenience, about having someone they could exploit without consequence. I walked until the sky went dark, and the city lights reflected off the water like scattered stars. Then I went home, opened my laptop, and started making lists. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Then I called my bank. I need to stop a pre-authorized payment, I told them. Which payment? The mortgage payment to First National Bank. $1,400 monthly. I can cancel that for you. The next payment was scheduled for the 15th. It will no longer go through. Thank you. Then I called the property tax office. I need to remove myself from the automatic payment plan for the property at 2,847 Mountain View Drive. Are you the property owner? No, but I've been making the payments. I need to stop. We'll need the property owner to confirm that change. The property owner is David Novak. If he wants to reinstate automatic payments from his own account, he can call you himself. I could hear the confusion in the clerk's voice, but she processed the request. Then I called the insurance company and did the same thing. In total, it took me 45 minutes to undo 4 years of financial responsibility for people who'd never asked if I could afford it. I felt lighter than I had in years. Over the next week, my father called 17 times. I didn't answer. Patricia called 9 times. I didn't answer. Vanessa sent 12 text messages ranging from angry to pleading to outright abusive. I didn't respond. On the 8th day, my father showed up at my workplace. The receptionist called me. Elena, there's a David Novak here to see you. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. Please tell him I'm in a meeting and can't be disturbed. He says it's a family emergency. It's not. Please ask him to leave. She hesitated. He's getting quite agitated. I went downstairs myself. My father was in the lobby, red-faced and furious. "We need to talk," he said loudly, drawing stares from people in the waiting area. "Not here," I said quietly. "Outside." He followed me out to the street, already talking before the door closed behind us. "What the hell do you think you're doing? The mortgage payment didn't go through. Neither did the property taxes or the insurance." "I know. You know? That's all you have to say? Do you have any idea what you've done? I stopped paying for your house. The house that was supposed to be mine. That house is in my name." "You had no right." "I had every right to stop giving you my money," I interrupted. "I'm not responsible for your mortgage, Dad. You are. After everything I've done for you, I raised you. I gave you a home. You raised me, because that's what parents do. And that home? That was my grandmother's gift to me, which you stole." His face went purple. "I stole nothing. That house was left to the family. It was left to me. In her will. You manipulated me when I was too young to understand, and then you bled me dry for 4 years. You ungrateful little," he caught himself, took a breath. When he spoke again, his voice was calculated, manipulative. "Elena, sweetheart, I know you're upset about the wedding thing. But you can't punish the whole family because of a disagreement. This isn't punishment. This is me setting boundaries. I will not be paying your bills anymore. You're going to let your own father lose his home? It was supposed to be my home. And you're not losing it because of me. You're losing it because you haven't paid for it in 4 years. Because I was counting on you?" The admission hung between us. "That's not my problem anymore," I said quietly. "Don't come to my workplace again. Don't call me, don't text me. We're done. You walk away from this family, and you'll regret it. Everyone will know what you did. Everyone will know you abandoned your own father. Tell them whatever you want." I went back inside, and I didn't look back. The calls and messages continued for another week, but they started getting desperate rather than angry. My father offered to work something out if I'd just start paying again. Patricia sent a long text about how I was destroying Vanessa's happiness. Vanessa herself sent a message telling me I was a terrible person and she hoped I died alone. I blocked all their numbers. 3 weeks after I'd stopped the payments, I got a call from my uncle, my father's younger brother Marcus. We'd never been particularly close, but he'd always been kind to me at family gatherings. "Elena? It's Marcus. I hope it's okay that I'm calling." "Hi, Uncle Marcus. How did you get my number?" "Your father gave it to me. Listen. He asked me to call you. He's in a bit of a situation with the house, and he thought maybe I could mediate." My heart sank. "Did he tell you what happened?" "He said you two had a fight about Vanessa's wedding, and you stopped helping with the bills out of spite. He said he needs you to reconsider because the house is going into foreclosure." "Is that all he told you?" "Well, yes. He said you'd been helping out with expenses, and now you've pulled support and they might lose the house." I took a breath. "Can I tell you my side?" Of course. I told him everything. The mortgage payments, the property taxes, the insurance, the groceries, the $105,000 over 4 years, the demand for $25,000 more for Vanessa's wedding, the threat that I wasn't family if I didn't comply. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Elena," he finally said, his voice strange, "is all of that true? I can send you bank statements if you want proof." "No, I believe you. I just can't believe David would." He trailed off. "That house. That was supposed to be yours, wasn't it? From your grandmother." "Yes." Another silence. "Elena, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. David made it sound like you were being petty over one disagreement. He didn't mention any of the rest of it." "He wouldn't. What he's doing to you, that's financial abuse. You know that, right?" Hearing someone say it out loud made something crack in my chest. "Yes, I know that now." "You don't owe him anything. You don't owe any of them anything." "Thank you for saying that. Is there anything I can do to help?" "Just, if other family members ask, tell them the truth. I don't have the energy to defend myself to everyone." "I'll do that. And Elena, I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I know that couldn't have been easy." After I hung up, I cried for the first time since my mother's funeral. Not sad tears, relief tears. The foreclosure process moved forward. My father tried everything to stop it. He took out payday loans to make a couple of payments, but he couldn't sustain it. He tried to get a loan modification, but his income didn't support it. He tried to refinance, but his credit was destroyed from years of missed payments on other debts. 2 months after I stopped paying, he and Patricia and Vanessa moved in with my father's friend Gerald, who apparently owed him a favor. Gerald gave them one room in his 3-bedroom house. One room for 3 adults. Vanessa's wedding was postponed indefinitely. Carter's family had offered to pay for the whole thing, but Vanessa's pride wouldn't let her accept charity. Last I heard, they'd broken up entirely. The extended family found out the truth, thanks to Uncle Marcus. Some of them reached out to me with apologies. Some of them took my father's side, saying I should have been more forgiving, that family is family. I didn't engage with either group. My father tried one last time to contact me, showing up at my apartment building 6 months after everything happened. The building manager called me to ask if I wanted him let up. No, I said. Tell him to leave or you'll call the police. I watched from my window as he walked away. His shoulders slumped, and I felt nothing but relief. I started therapy shortly after. My therapist helped me understand that what I'd experienced was years of financial exploitation and emotional manipulation. She helped me see that my grandmother's wishes had been twisted to control me. That real family doesn't demand you destroy yourself for their comfort. It's been a year now since I walked out of that dinner. I'm 27, and I have my life back. I moved to a better apartment. A 1-bedroom with a balcony and a view of the mountains. I started saving money. Real money. I have over $32,000 in my savings account now. I got a promotion at work. I started dating someone kind who thinks it's absurd that I ever paid for my father's life. I took my first real vacation in years. A week in the Maritimes, where I ate lobster and watched the sunset over the Atlantic. Sometimes people ask me if I regret cutting off my father, if I feel guilty about the house being foreclosed. I don't. That house was supposed to be my inheritance, my fresh start, my grandmother's way of taking care of me. Instead, it became a tool to exploit me. I'm not responsible for the choices my father made, the debts he incurred, the life he couldn't afford to sustain. I learned something important through all of this. Family isn't defined by blood or obligation. Family is defined by mutual respect, genuine care, and reciprocal support. People who love you don't bleed you dry and then demand more. They don't threaten to disown you when you set boundaries. And here's what I want anyone reading this to understand. If you're being financially exploited by family members, it's not your obligation to destroy your own future for their comfort. You're not selfish for wanting to save money. You're not cruel for setting boundaries. You're not ungrateful for refusing to be an ATM. Your worth is not measured by what you can provide to others. Your value is inherent, regardless of your usefulness. I also learned that walking away doesn't require drama or confrontation or revenge. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply stop participating in your own exploitation. Just stop. Stop paying. Stop explaining. Stop defending. Stop engaging. The people who truly care about you will understand. The people who don't will reveal themselves through their reactions. My grandmother wanted to give me security and independence. It took me longer than it should have, but I finally accepted that gift, just not in the way anyone expected. The security didn't come from the house. It came from learning to value myself enough to say no. If you're in a similar situation, please hear this. You deserve to keep the money you earn. You deserve to save for your own future. You deserve to build a life that isn't centered around servicing other people's needs. And you deserve to be loved for who you are, not what you can provide. Setting boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you a person who understands their own worth. And that's the greatest inheritance of all.